Today on Starfield Essentials, in general news, DLC content controversy, Starfield on PlayStation, Black Friday Xbox sales, SteamDB updates, ZeniMax QA on strike. In mod and play news, doubled enemies for Shattered Space, setting ship prices in the creation kit, ship-to-ship transporter work in progress, extracting outpost resources from the atmosphere, reaching level 1000. And in game management news, Nvidia app, driver, and DLSS updates, benchmarking gameplay, and mod management poll results. My name is Richard. Let's get started. The CEO of Microsoft Gaming, Phil Spencer, shared some thoughts on Starfield in an interview with GameFile. Because that is behind a paywall, I'm quoting the story from True Achievements. That story says, quote, Spencer says that Bethesda boss Todd Howard has questioned if the free vehicle update in August should have been rolled into Shattered Space. Todd and I were talking about Shattered Space. Starfield is a game I, Phil Spencer, put a ton of hours into and really love. But they've had this thing where they've added features throughout the year and then they had an expansion, Spencer said. I think some of the feedback of the expansion is, we wanted more features. And he, Todd, is like, well, should we have waited to put buggies out? End quote. I will answer that with my opinion. Yes, BGS made the right call by dropping the Rover on August 20th. Check out my version history table for Starfield. In late August, it had been over 2 months since anything substantial had been added to Starfield. In early June, we had received Creations, Creation Kit, and the Trackers Alliance. The August Rover drop was a big hit and brought many people back to Starfield. Now, could BGS have waited 5 more weeks and bundled the Rover with Shattered Space? Yes, but in my opinion, the people who complained about Shattered Space would have still complained. I won't rehash my discussion of that issue, but holding back content is not the answer. People who wanted more features are looking for everything from more ship parts to overhauling how the game works. Packaging the Rover with Shattered Space would not have made critics happy without those other additions. Personally, I would also like to see more ship parts, more outpost content, and similar non-narrative additions to the game. Modders are adding a lot of that, but I expect we will get content like that from Bethesda in 2025. Next, Starfield on PlayStation. This week, Bloomberg also interviewed Phil Spencer. When asked about releasing Xbox games to PlayStation, the story says, quote, Microsoft will do more of that, Phil Spencer said, and won't rule out any game in Microsoft's stable. I do not see, red lines in our portfolio that say, thou must not, he said. It's too early to make any sort of decision on the next version of Halo, he said. That gives you some context of the question. I say, bring Starfield to PlayStation. I think it will happen. Why and when? The why is to make more money for Microsoft. The when is at the point where Microsoft and Bethesda see Starfield revenue and or player count meeting certain metrics. I believe the studio is happy to keep Starfield within the Xbox and Steam ecosystems so long as it is achieving whatever financial and engagement goals they set for the game. Once Microsoft feels they need to use PlayStation revenue to support those goals, they will release the game beyond the Xbox and Steam ecosystems. When might this happen? I would not be surprised to see Starfield on PlayStation in 2025, possibly before or at the launch of the next Starfield DLC. I expect that will happen in the fall of 2025. And all we know about that probable DLC is that ZeniMax Media filed a trademark application for the term Starborn in July 2024. I'm personally looking forward to sharing Starfield with as many players as possible. With respect to sharing Starfield, both Starfield and the Starfield Premium Edition are enjoying a Black Friday sale on the Xbox Store. The base game is $41.99 in US dollars, a $25 discount, and the Starfield Premium Edition is $64.99, a $35 discount. Speaking of Xbox, Starfield is hanging in the top 40 Xbox games played, according to this chart from November 10th from True Achievements. Looking at SteamDB, we see that Starfield continues to receive regular updates. If we want to look for updates to Shattered Space, we need to check the primary Starfield SteamDB page for the DLC repo ID, which is 2721670. As of the time of recording, the last update was for the beta, which released on November 5th. I expect to see the beta released to the Xbox and mainline Steam editions any day now. Bethesda publishes betas 10 to 14 days prior to general availability. I'll update the description below when the beta is widely available. Taking a look at the Creation Kit, there was another check-in on November 7th, so the Creation Kit is also receiving some attention. And finally, in general news, GameSpot reported on November 13th that ZeniMax workers in Austin and Rockville participated in a one-day strike on November 13th. According to the article, quote, ZeniMax Workers United has been attempting to negotiate a deal with Microsoft over remote work requirements, while also limiting the number of outsourced QA workers who can be brought in on Bethesda's projects. The union didn't say who Microsoft is outsourcing QA work to, but it accused the company of ignoring requests to negotiate, end quote. I hope that the workers are able to preserve their work-from-home capability and better manage the use of external parties for quality assurance work. Starfield has been Bethesda's least buggy release to date, so QA has been doing great work with this title. Oh, and I can hear some of you typing furiously in the comments. I know there were bugs in the game. I was personally unable to complete the Ryujin quest without Xbox crossplay, an achievement enabler mod, and console commands. Still, as my version chart shows, Bethesda has been diligent about constantly fixing bugs, and many of us have enjoyed hundreds of hours since the game launched last fall. Given how complex this game is, I'm surprised it can do all that it can, especially on current generation consoles. Let's turn to mod and play news. Doubled Enemies for Shattered Space is now available. For several months, I have been playing the Doubled Enemies mod by LJorder66 as one of my Chaos mods. This mod changes the number of enemies you encounter at POIs. Now, thanks to modder Kara42, we have Shattered Space doubled enemy numbers. I tested this mod on Varun Kai, and it seemed to work as advertised. I enjoy any mod that adds NPCs, because on my modded play, I usually have 4 to 6 companions with me. When I face many adversaries, I sometimes use the Danger Zone mod to throw a squad of UC Marines or Ryujin security into the mix as well. On a system with enough RAM, Starfield can handle large numbers of active NPCs. Next, I've had a few people ask me, and ask others, if there is a way to set a price for a ship when building it in the Creation Kit. As you can see in this screen capture, it appears that ship price is a calculated cost. I poked around and learned of a workaround from modder Sadder. They recommended granting access to a ship by creating a slate, and setting the cost of that slate to your desired value. This is the method used in Sadder's Shady Ship Vendors mod. I gave this mod a try, along with the Weird Wonders mod, which provides several new ships for the player to purchase. Let's take a look at them. So the vendors are found in 3 different locations, and the first one you'll probably want to go to is on New Atlantis. I'm not going to show all 3. I think Neon and Aquila City are the other 2. But here, New Atlantis, we see a vendor called Lucky. If we ask to see what he has, he'll show us slates that are for sale, and these are the different ships you can buy and the prices for them. So here I'm buying 2 of the ships. You can see you can also upgrade the Razorleaf if you've completed the Mantis quest. The ships are not added into your inventory until you read the slates, so that's going to be the next step. And it'd be pretty cool if the ship just landed like we see that one landing off in the distance. But for now, let's check our inventory, check our new items. We have a ship called Hammerhead, and you can see the stats there. Pretty cool. By the way, props to Sadder for designing these ships. And the other ship we have is Mag Daddy, another ship, and you can see the stats for the ship there. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to select one of those ships, and we'll take a look. Here's Mag Daddy. I have to tell you, some people are so creative with their ship building. This is definitely one of the best parts of Starfield. I build pretty vanilla ships, but those of you who have the skill to do this, really great. This is one of the best parts of the game, in my opinion. So that's the Mag Daddy, and here's the Hammerhead. You can see the front end of the ship definitely looks like a hammerhead shark. Really love this. It's got sort of that Star Wars New Republic vibe to it with the gray and the red paint scheme. So these are only 2 of the ships that are available. There are, like I said, the updates to the Mantis, and I believe there's a 3rd ship, which I didn't actually look at. Actually, there might be a 4th ship as well. So now to make one of those ships my active ship, I have to run back over to the ship technician, and I've got some issues with the floor in the area. I have to check that out, but I'll go to modify, or view and modify my ships. And there's my modified White Wolf, but here is Magdaddy. I will make Magdaddy my home ship and say goodbye to the ship technician. Let's take a quick run around Magdaddy and get a look at the ship from the outside. There's my Rev 8 waiting there. This is a fairly large ship, a lot of structural parts that were put into making it look cool, making it look like a weapon. My character's doing a good job avoiding those giant holes that are in the landing pad there. That might be caused by one of the mods I'm using. For example, I'm using the Galactic Highway mod, which adds roads to New Atlantis, so that might be causing some of the issues. Nice design on this ship. Good job, character. I think this is my character, Jason, from Jason and the Argonauts. Anyway, let's take this ship off into space. Let's see what it can do. Sarah thinks it looks good as well. I'm not usually running these animations, but it sure makes for a cool visual. Now we'll get off into orbit, and I already have some missions set up. Haha, yeah, I'm messing with the fleet, pal. I usually fight third person in the ship, but this what happened. There we go. We're switching over to third person, trying to get a lock. And I've got missiles. I usually don't have missiles on my other ships that I build. I think I sort of bounced back and forth between first and third person in this battle because it was tough to see, and that ship didn't last very long at all. That Crimson Fleet White 2 was wiped out pretty quickly. So this was a good example of being able to buy a ship from someone who has set the ship price by using a slate. And once again, thank you to Satter for answering my question, and for Rickard Hammer for inviting me to the Discord server where Satter was hanging out and able to answer my question. Next, we have a mod that is currently a work in progress. This is a ship-to-ship transporter by a modder named Nihur, who has Fallout 4 modding experience, and this is from his post on YouTube. The basic idea is that you could use this mod to fast travel from your ship to another once you have disabled the target's shields, as just happened here. So here we have our character. I'm going to walk over to the ship-to-ship transporter. Once you select it, you beam to the ship that you just disabled. Look at that! No need to dock. You are now on the enemy ship, and at this point you would have to take out the crew. I think that's really cool. It looks like we get a zero-G situation here. I think this is a neat mechanic. I'm not sure how much I would use it, but in terms of adding to the sci-fi aspect of the ship, that's pretty cool. And if you want to go back to your ship, you simply highlight it in the window. Here, the Frontier is the ship that we transported from, and we'll fast travel back to our ship. So I look forward to seeing this mod once it is released by Nihir, and I have linked to the video in the description, the original material that this particular segment came from. So great job, Nihir. Looking forward to seeing this mod in action myself. Another discussion on Reddit caught my attention this week. This involved extracting HE3 and other resources from the atmosphere rather than from the ground. I'm sure the Outpost gurus in the audience are aware of this capability, but I had not recognized how useful this could be. First, Redditor U Freight Phantom published a post listing all of the worlds in Starfield with HE3 in the atmosphere. This is incredibly useful because it means no matter where you land on one of these planets or moons, you can extract HE3 anywhere. Freight Phantom is also known as JHey on GitHub, and he has collected an amazing amount of data in JSON format for analysis. I've linked the repo in the description. Simultaneously, Redditor U Joshin Burbank identified 5 other resources that can be extracted from the atmosphere: water, alkanes, benzene, chlorine, and fluorine. They created a big vapor list for all of these worlds. Let's take a look at this in the game. Here I am on Eridani 3B, and I'm dropping an extractor, and there's 2 types of extractors here. There's one for helium-3, and there's one for chlorine. Now, the extractor for helium-3 is going to pull it from the atmosphere. That looks different than the one we'll use for pulling it from the ground. And as you can see, there was no blob for helium on the ground. There is helium on this planet, and we're going to show that in a next segment. But here we are, just pulling helium-3 from the atmosphere. Now I've just taken a short rest. I'll run up to the extractor itself, and you can see we have 11 helium-3 taken from the atmosphere. This is pretty cool. So what I'm going to do now is blow this outpost away, and I'm going to reposition myself on another part of the planet that has helium-3 in the ground. So here's a map of Eridani 3b. Let's show the resources. Let's zoom in on helium-3. It's going to be one of the bright green areas. And there it is, and we will land there. Here I am on that other section of Eridani 3b, and I've identified a spot where there is helium-3 in the ground. It's going to be shown by that green mass there, and you can see that I'm switching from the atmospheric extractor to the ground extractor. So long as my ground extractor is on the green blob, I am able to extract He3, and if I switch to the atmospheric, I'm able to extract He3. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to put one ground extractor on an He3 deposit, then I will switch to an airborne He3 extractor, and I'll put it outside of the green blob. Now I've got two extractors, I need to power them, and at this location I'm going to use 2 solar arrays to get the amount of power I need. Each one provides 6, I need 10, so I now have a total power of 12 with 2 left over. And these extractors will have a limited storage capability, which is all I need to demonstrate that they are extracting He3. Let's take a look first at the ground-based extractor, and we can see that it has helium-3. We'll grab that, and now I'll jetpack over past my solar power. I should jump on one of these things and spin around. Wouldn't that be fun? Oh, I think I'm going to do it. There we go. See? I love the physics in Starfield. Creation Engine 2 for the win. Past my beacon, over here to my atmospheric extractor, and I can see that I just pulled 15 helium-3 from the atmospheric extractor. So I really like this, and as I was finishing this video, Artie from Anara responded to an email I had sent. He has added the atmospheric data to his awesome site. There's a new Any Atmosphere search. I linked the search in the video description. Finally, in mod and play news, there is a report from a player who reached level 1000 in the game. Congratulations to Redditor Putrid Level 621, clearly the username does not check out, for achieving this milestone. As you can see in the screen capture, the player was mining Vitinium fuel rods to farm XP. I asked in a comment and found out that they crafted about 15 million of these items. If you assume crafting from scratch and including the component items, that's 15 million times 26 XP per total, or 390 million XP. Now, I have this XP leveling curve spreadsheet that goes to level 328. You can see that it takes over 9.4 million XP to reach level 328. Level 326 is needed to maximize all skills, assuming you pick 3 skills when creating your character. I tried extending the spreadsheet to level 1000 using the formulas from the original. According to the math, reaching level 1000 requires almost 1.15 billion XP. That's over 44 million Vitinium fuel rods. So it's only 3 times as many as the Redditor posted. In other words, it's within reach. Note that automation played a role here, with Auto Hotkey on PC doing the grunt work. It looks like the Outpost farmer still deployed an impressive installation for storing materials. Also, 390 million XP would still be enough to get to level 836. If you want my recommendation for farming XP and credits, please check out my video on farming O2 shots. Finally, in game management news. If you're not using a Nvidia GPU, please feel free to skip to the next section. Nvidia finally released its new unified app for managing your Nvidia GPU. Nvidia also updated its driver to version 566.14. Along with this new GPU driver, we have a new DLSS DLL, or Dynamic Linked Library, version 3.8.10. DLSS is Nvidia's deep learning super sampling technology that scales a lower resolution output from the GPU to a higher final resolution seen on screen. First, the app. I'm still working with it, and I was interested in seeing what it recommended regarding settings for Starfield. I prefer to have the highest possible resolution and quality at a lower FPS if needed. If you're like me, you will want to disable the auto optimization to keep your preferred settings. There are 2 entries for Starfield here because the program sees my second installation for testing the Star Wars Genesis mod list. I noticed the app did not add my Xbox for PC version of Starfield. There appears to be a permissions issue, but that's okay for now. The app has a lot of features I want to try, including game recording. I took the release of the new driver and app as an opportunity to try manually updating DLSS and related DLLs. Although you can do this manually by copying files, I tried DLSS Updater by Dominic. I really like the design and operation of this tool, and Dominic answered several of my questions in his Discord server. This tool finds games on your drive and detects what versions of the upscaling, ray reconstruction, and frame generation DLLs it finds if they exist. I like that DLSS Updater pulls directly from the Tech Power Up site to find the latest versions of each DLL. In this example, the tool found the 3D Mark demo, the Black Myth Wukong benchmark, the Shadow of the Tomb Raider trial, and Starfield, which it labels as the creation kit. Both executables are in the same directory, so working with this entry affects both the game and creation kit. As a test, I tried updating the 3D Mark demo DLSS DLL from version 2.4.0.0 to 3.8.10.0. But to be honest, I don't know if it had any effect. There was basically no change in FPS, but the overall score was slightly better. I tried updating the Black Myth Wukong test to all 3 of the latest DLLs, but it didn't make much of a difference there. I tried updating the DLSS DLL for the Shadow of the Tomb Raider trial. It appears the new DLL is not compatible, because when I tried to run the benchmark, it showed that DLSS was no longer an option. I ran it anyway and found that the FPS was lower. I would like to see Starfield incorporate its own in-game benchmark scenario. It would be helpful to see a random character walking around New Atlantis and Aquila City, and possibly a space battle. I don't think Bethesda has a history of including this sort of option, but I like it in other video games. The ideal would be a free standalone benchmark, like Black Myth Wukong, but I don't think we would see that. On to poll results. This month I've asked a few poll questions, so here are the results. First, 53% of respondents don't use a mod organizer. Of those that said yes, it split pretty evenly between Mod Organizer 2 and Vortex. I then asked those of you who don't use a mod organizer to please elaborate. 76% of you use the creations option built into Starfield. I think this might reflect our console players. It was then pretty evenly divided between not using mods or managing mods manually. Finally, I asked what resolution you play Starfield. I was pretty surprised to see 38% of you play at 1080p. Again, I wonder if this is a console issue. A slightly smaller number play at 1440p, and a quarter of you play at 4K. Thank you for answering these poll questions. Feel free to suggest new ones in the comments. What have you been doing in Starfield? What do you think of these updates? Your insights make this channel a place for positive and honest discussion of Starfield. In addition to videos, I also post to the community tab for this channel on a daily basis. If you subscribe, you will see these posts in your YouTube feed. If you made it to this part of the video, please leave a comment with the name Lara Croft. Also, remember to ring the bell icon and select all notifications. Check out my other videos if you want to learn how to keep your ship by building it in the creation kit, or my thoughts on the game's 1-year anniversary. My name is Richard. I will see you in the Starfield.